Recently, the Resident Evil community has been actively discussing a mysterious hooded figure that appears in footage from Resident Evil Requiem. Many players believe that this character could actually be Brandon Bailey. But who exactly is he? And is there any real evidence that the person in the hood is really him? Brandon Bailey is a character from the deeper lore of the Resident Evil universe. He was never a major villain or a central character in the games, which is why many players may have never heard his name before. However, within the background story of the series, he played a surprisingly important role. Bailey was a virologist and one of the students of Dr. James Marcus, one of the founders of Umbrella and one of the first scientists to study the mysterious Progenitor Virus. This virus is extremely important in the Resident Evil universe because it is considered the foundation for many of the viruses and bioorganic weapons that appear throughout the series. Unlike more famous Umbrella scientists such as William Birkin or Albert Wesker, Brandon Bailey mostly worked behind the scenes. According to the lore, he participated in early Progenitor Virus research and was connected to Umbrella's African research facilities, where scientists were studying the origins and properties of the virus. After the collapse of Umbrella, Bailey's fate became unclear for many years. However, expanded lore suggests that he may have later been connected to a criminal organization known as the Connections. This group is also believed to be involved in the creation of Eveline, the bioweapon central to the events of Resident Evil 7. Now, many years later, Resident Evil Requiem introduces a mysterious hooded figure who appears in scenes connected to an old hotel and locations that seem tied to Umbrella's past. Because of this, fans have started to speculate that the hooded person might actually be Brandon Bailey. But why Bailey specifically? First, the story of Resident Evil Requiem appears to revisit older Umbrella experiments and possibly the origins of certain viruses. Since Bailey was involved in some of the earliest research connected to Progenitor, his return would make sense within the story. Second, the timeline could also work. If Bailey survived the fall of Umbrella and continued his research within other secret organizations, he could now be an older figure operating in the shadows, someone who has spent decades observing the development of bioweapons and continuing his own experiments. And finally, the way the hooded character is presented is interesting. He doesn't look like a typical infected creature or a random monster. Instead, his appearance suggests someone more calculating, someone pulling the strings from behind the scenes. However, it is important to remember that at this moment, this is still just a fan theory. Capcom has not officially confirmed that the hooded figure is Brandon Bailey. It is entirely possible that the developers are introducing a completely new character, or that there's another unexpected connection to the larger Resident Evil storyline. But if the theory turns out to be true, Resident Evil Requiem could once again bring the story back to the very origins of Umbrella and the scientists who helped create the viruses that shaped the entire series. And if that hooded figure really is Brandon Bailey, he may not just be another villain. He could be one of the last surviving scientists from Umbrella's earliest days, someone who knows the true origins of the virus better than anyone else.
Remaining BSAA forces have been neutralized. Retrieving the objective before they send in the wolves.